Welcome back, extraordinary viewers. Here's the intermediary alarm setting wheel, the gear right here, the old one and the new one. You can see them. I'm going to replace that today. I'm going to also show how the alarm setting jumper needs to be and the how the wheel cover goes on. So you can see here I've put the intermediate wheel in, I've put the cover on. There's the spring or the jumper, and this just goes right on like that. It gets screwed down just like that. The alarm setting wheel in place. That was the thing that was keeping us from being able to set the alarm on this at all. Oh yeah, I'm going to show you the screw pickups again because that is a big part of this hobby. I'm doing this at about 2 times speed because otherwise it gets really laborious. But you can see how I've got the spring. There it is. You can see how I've got the spring sprung. It's not in its engaged position. I'll have to lift it up and over that post to put it in its there, just like that, in its engaged position, and now everything works. Here we've got a really important detail. It's the alarm setting indicator lever, and it goes right there. It is very finicky, and it will come off when you're trying to put the cover plate on next, like this. You see how that disengaged? So you're going to have to be very careful when you put this lever in, because the setting indicator itself sits on the very end of that, sits on that pin once this is all assembled. A task in and of itself that is frustrating, but I just wanted to point this out because here we've got the date dial guard going on. I've sped this up a little bit, but you have to make sure that this is absolutely flat. It's easy to pinch something, and as I said, that lever comes undone. So it's absolutely critical that this goes on easily and flat. When these screws go in, they can buckle the surface of this, and that's how you know something underneath isn't working. Seiko has built these access points into this plate so that you can manipulate things underneath it, but there are a few things that if they don't get lined up right and this plate gets attempted to screw down, what can happen is that a piece gets pinched, it doesn't operate properly, and you have to take the entire piece apart again. So make sure when you're screwing this down, sometimes it's advantageous to apply pressure to certain parts of the plate. Let's pan out here a little bit on this, to apply pressure on certain parts of the plate as you screw things down, so that if you do boggle a screw like that, which is often done, you can make sure that the part doesn't dislodge when you're cobbing it about. So that's how that plate gets fastened. That's the date dial guard assembled, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put on the alarm setting wheel, is what that's called, and the holding ring for the dial. So I thought there was one more screw on here. There's supposed to be 4 holding them down. 1, 2, 3. There, there's one missing right up there on the left. And this is why I keep all the screws in a special box as I disassemble it, so that nothing gets caught in a sleeve or off the palm of the hand or something like that. It's important to keep all the parts separate in my case. Yeah, everything's rotating correctly, and everything is not flexing, so that plate is down absolutely flat, which is exactly as it should be. You can see that the stems are engaging as they should. Let's continue to assemble this. I'm going to need to put the alarm setting wheel on. Okay, so now we get the alarm setting wheel, and there it is right there. That's a tooth gear wheel that sits on the outside, and the holding ring goes on top of it. You have to line those screws up pretty carefully as you go, because there it is. As we know, it has to be precise. So that's both the holding ring and the alarm setting wheel set up. Yeah, let's screw this down. Alright, so that's the holding ring for the dial. Right there, I can screw that down. This is the part that makes this watch so unique. This manual rotating geared ring around the face that moves the alarm. It is the most difficult part of this watch to set, and it made the watch stand out for its day. Most watches of this period were fully digital, and so they were just driving a digital number to an alarm to make it go off. But this one, there's a mechanical movement that drives the indicator for the alarm. Very unusual. It's one of the reasons I like this watch. It's one of the reasons I take care to restore these, is because they are like those Teslas of the early days when it was state of the art, shoehorned into a conventional frame like the old Lotuses. Anyway, yep, there's the holding ring screwed down for the dial. Now I can get the alarm setting indicator. The alarm setting indicator lever is in place. You can see it right there. Right there is the spring that needs to be in place. So everything's ready for us to move on to the next step, which is that that's that alarm setting indicator, which is so finicky. After we put this day finger on, that day finger needs to go on top of the date dial guard, and it is tricky. It's two pieces. There's one above and one below the guard, so there we go. You got to make sure that it moves freely and sits just above that guard, just like that. All right, we're ready to move on. So it's time for a test of operations here for the alarm setting wheel. Let's make sure that rotates. Let's make sure the day finger moves the date. Let's make sure the crowns function as they should and the stems engage where they should. It looks like the alarm setting indicator lever is excuse me, moving as it should. There's the alarm setting wheel rotating for the first time. You can see the lever moving back and forth at the top there. And let's see if the day will, there's the date right there. And let's make sure that we don't have the day in yet, so that's just the date. So let's make sure that the finger moves when I rotate it, which it does. So that's perfect. Now we can go on to putting the day wheel on. Now we move on to one of the most frustrating parts of this whole watch. It's this alarm setting indicator that goes on to the lever pin, which is so small and so blocked by the holding ring for the dial that it's very difficult to orient how to get that precisely fit cup into that pin. And there's a very few ways to make sure you got it, and that is not one of them. Don't pull the crown out while you're doing this to see if you've got that pin centered, or you will frisbee this thing. So it is a so this alarm setting indicator, how to check if it's centered, the manual recommends pushing it to either side with your tweezers, and I've found this is easy to push off of that pin if you do it that way. So if you pull the crown out just a little bit and wiggle it without pulling it to frisbee it, excuse me, you can actually ascertain whether or not it is truly centered. Now we can go on to the day wheel with its snap for the dial disc going on after it. Make sure, of course, the bevel is facing down, because that's what allows us to put anything under it to pry it up. It's fairly easy to get these on there with a pair of scissors, and the holes in the day wheel are set up to access certain parts of springs that help you line it up once it's on there. Alright, that's clicked in place. Now we're going to move that. There it is. There's just a little foot to a spring that goes on the back gear of the day star. So that's everything ready for the face. We can put the dial back on this now, making sure never to touch the alarm setting indicator with anything, because that is just waiting to come off of there. As I said, having one of these movement stands from Seiko, I had to hunt for a long time for them, is worth it, because it's very difficult to hold these movements, especially ones with the gearing on the outside with a traditional movement holder. Using fiber-tipped tweezers anytime I touch a face, because otherwise I'm just afraid of scratching them. This is a beautiful face. Everything was great except for that one flaw, and we got it fixed. So let's put this thing back together. See if the alarm works. I'll show you how that works right now. Alright, so we've got the face on. Everything's functioning as it should. Let's turn this over and get those dial feet anchored down. There's two pins that go through the plate, old school style, and one of them is right here. It needs to be rotated. Sorry for the focus, my glove caught the autofocus, but you guys can see where I'm headed here with these screws. I turn them 90 degrees, get them to lock onto the feet, and there it is. There's the watch ready for the hands and the case. Whoops, not yet. The alarm set rotating ring goes on. So the alarm set rotating ring goes over the holding ring for the dial and connects to the alarm setting wheel. There it is right there. And you can see it's got the alarm in the back right there. The book recommends putting the two pieces of the back together, putting the battery in. Let me show you the back here. Screwing in the battery cap right there. You can see the two pieces of the back are together. It's a little tricky. And then putting the battery in, and you're right, it's upside down, just making sure you're paying attention. And then putting the movement over the back in the right orientation. And this does take some focus, because they built this thing so the battery opening and the alarm opening look very similar. But you can see that one is obviously the battery opener with the obvious tab, and the other one has three prongs on it that touch three spaces on the alarm right there. You can see those three, and there's only one there. So the battery goes to the one, the alarm goes to the other. Make sure you don't mess them up. That's the battery, that's the alarm. And that should power the alarm in the watch. And so when you pull the stem, it should activate the alarm if everything's working right. So let's see, it should go. it's actually working. So that's good. So we know that the alarm is working, and we can put this back together now. And we can make this run, which is perfect. Everything's working on this watch. And that's when I transfer it over to the Seiko movement holder to put this ring on so I don't press on the back of this movement at all. And I want to check and make sure this doesn't come up at any point when I pull it just like that. I can tell that it's not seated properly if it does that. And I'm wearing gloves so that I can push on this ring without pushing on the movement behind it. That's very critical. So if you can find one of these movement holders, it really, really helps. And there it is right there. You can see that right there. Now the battery's not in it, but I can check whether the indicator moves. It does. And then the ring moves, which it does. So both of those things are moving as they should. And now we can set the hands on it and set the alarm. I'll show you how to do that next. Stay tuned. Come on back.